Hi there, in this video I'm going to show you how to export questions in multiple choice and matching formats, export them from Examview into Brightspace to use for a quiz in Brightspace. Examview has other types of questions. I haven't really played around with them much, but the multiple choice and the matching are good options because Examview can mark them for you without you needing to read the student's answers. So here in Examview I've created a multiple choice quiz. It's got 10 questions. You're going to want to make sure you save this quiz. Then you're going to pick File and Export, and I'm going to choose this last option here. Apparently the latest versions of Examview actually have an option to export into Brightspace format, but my Examview doesn't have that option, but this last one here will still do the trick. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to call this a multiple choice test, and I'm going to save that. And what that does is it creates a zip file. So here is my multiple choice test, but this is my multiple choice zip file. Now I'm going to go into Brightspace, and I'm going to first of all create a question bank. And what I'm going to do is click on Quizzes, and instead of creating a quiz right away, I'm going to click here on Question Library. The reason that I'm doing this is because I'm going to show you how to have a pool of questions, a library of questions, and then set up quizzes to only randomly choose some of those questions. This way not every student is going to get the exact same quiz. So we're going to import a question library. I'm going to upload a file, and then I'm going to just minimize this so that I can drag my zip file. Make sure you're using the zip file and not the quiz that you created, and I'm going to drop it into here. And it reads that there are 10 questions. I'm going to import them all. So now my question library has these 10 questions in there. I'm going to be done with this. Now I'm going to create a new quiz. And I can set up the properties. Let's call it multiple choice. You could add a category here, and what I'm going to do is add questions. And what I'm going to add is, well, you can add new questions singularly and fill them in yourself, but I'm going to add a question pool. So the question pool title, let's say these are questions on cell biology. It doesn't really matter what you call this. Now let's say I'm going to choose 5 questions out of those 10. And I need to pick which question libraries I'm going to pick them from, and I'm going to pick them from that library that I just created. So I'm going to add this. So now I've got 10 possible multiple choice questions, but for this quiz it's going to select 5 of them randomly. And I'm going to save this. And I'm going to go back to the settings for the multiple choice. Now you could specify only so many questions per page. I'm actually going to specify also to shuffle the questions. That way students do not get the same questions in the same order. You could add a description So maybe you call this a remote learning quiz. Maybe you give it an introduction. Maybe you put a header on there. Maybe we say something like this: you have 30 minutes to complete the quiz. Something like that. Now, I usually click disable right click. According to this little question mark help, it says disabling the right click prohibits users from printing quiz questions by right clicking on a question when taking a quiz. I'm not sure if my students would even be doing that, but I usually click it anyway. I also usually choose to disable email instant messages and alerts just to hopefully avoid them communicating. And I'm going to save this. Now under restrictions, because this is a quiz and not an assignment, I usually do not have it have a due date. I can unhide it from users, but what I will do is create a start and an end time, and that gives you the window that they are able to start the quiz. So I could say it's going to start at 8 p.m. and I could say it's going to end on the exact same day at 8:30 p.m. So let's say I'm giving them a half an hour window to begin the quiz. I can display it in the calendar. Now, here's where you can enforce a time limit if you want. Let's say I'm only going to allow them 30 minutes to complete these questions. You can give them a grace period if you want. After the grace period, you can allow them to keep working, but what I'm going to do is prevent the student from making further changes. So basically they have 35 minutes to complete the quiz and then it's over. Now, if a student, I'm just actually going to save this. If a student has an IEP and needs some extra time, what you can do is add special access down here. So allow selected users special access to the quiz. So if I add users special access, I could change the start and end time. So let's say maybe a student is sick and you're going to let them write the quiz the next day. You could change that for a particular student. You could change the amount of time that they have. You could give them double time if you want, or an alternative grace period. And then what you can do is choose students from your list to allow that extra time. Now, one thing to note, I found out this the hard way. Let's say you are setting up these options here and you want to pick some of these students and there's more students in the class. This is only page 1 of 2. If I just click here and go to the next page, these students are actually, their settings are lost. So to avoid that, what you want to make sure is that all students are shown on this page. So I'm going to click 50 per page. That way, whatever settings I've got at the beginning here, which is this extended time, actually let's go with giving them 60 minutes. Let's say I pick 2 kids. You can see now the whole class is visible. Now when I add special access, it saves all the students. So now you can see at the bottom that these 2 students have been given the same window, but I'm allowing them 60 minutes. And you can edit those later if you want. Now for assessment, you could allow the attempt to be graded immediately upon completion. I usually do that. So as soon as they're done the quiz, they can see their mark. If you want to count this in your grade book, you can add a grade item and link it to your categories that you've set up, and allow automatic export to grades if you have that set up. This is the preview of what the students are going to see, how many marks they got correct, and again, you could allow them more attempts, etc. Let's save this. Now, when you go to submission views, here's where I want to show the student, when they are finished, this message, and I usually like to show them which ones they got incorrect. Okay, I don't usually have them see all the questions again, usually just the ones that were wrong, and you could show the class average, you could have different options in here. So I think pretty much this quiz is done. And save and close. So now, if the students go into quizzes, so let's say we just go into quizzes, this particular quiz will not even appear to students until you make it available. So they will not be able to access it. It'll say no quizzes are available. And right at this time here, in this case 8 p.m., then it will become visible and the students can get their quiz, which will be 5 random questions out of my pool of 10, and it will mark it and show them which ones they got wrong and give them their mark out of 5 in this case, and link that mark to your gradebook if you've chosen to do that. And it will also show up in their course progress. It'll show, if you go to Assess Tools, Class Progress, it will show up in quizzes. If I click on a student, it should, I guess maybe because I haven't activated this course, it should also show quizzes and show them their marks. Now, let's say we do a matching quiz. So I'm going to go back to Examview, and I created a matching quiz from the question bank that I have. So this quiz that I created has one set of questions with 8 possible matching items here. So again, I'm going to export this. Export it as this last one, WebCT CE Vista. And I'm going to call this matching. And so if I look in my folder, this one is the matching test, but this is the zip file. Now, for matching, it does get a little bit messed up in the formatting. I'm not sure if it's always that case, but at least in this version that doesn't have export directly to Brightspace, this is what tends to happen. I'll show you what happens. So this time for quizzes, I'm not going to use a question library. I'm just going to create a new quiz, and I'm going to call this matching, and this quiz is empty, so I'm going to add some questions. Now, instead of adding a question pool like I did before, or adding a new question, I'm going to import the zip file. So I'm going to drag over my matching, oops, what happened to that? I'm going to drag over my matching, oh, it wants to do all 3. What's happening here? Okay, drag over the matching. and I'm going to import all. And it thinks that this is one question worth 1 point. I'm going to go back to the properties of the quiz. Again, I can shuffle them. I can specify so many per page. But what I'm going to do, because there are 8 questions, I'm going to edit the values, because right now it says that there is, only 1 point. I'm going to change this to 8. And I'm just going to save that so that the total marks should be 8, because these are 8 questions. Again, you could add an introduction, instructions to the students, something about their time limit, what to do, something like that. Again, you could disable the right-click the hints, you could disable the email, and we can save that. Again, you could put the open and the close of the quiz. You could keep it hidden from users. You could add a due date if you want, but usually I'm just going with a start date and an end date. And again, usually, let's say I'm giving them from 8 until 10 to do this and display it in the calendar. You could put in a password if you want. You could put in some IP restrictions. You could put in a recommended time limit, enforced time limit, something like that. You could allow users special access. Okay, same thing. But what happens with this, if I save and close this, if I actually go into the quiz, if I preview it, oh, this is not what I wanted. I want to show you that the questions here we go. If I go add and edit the questions, if I go to the questions, this is what happens with the importing. Okay, these are the questions here. So it's giving you the option to change the instructions here. But what happens with the importing, you can see, so remember that there are 8 choices: eukaryotic, nucleolus, cilia, cytoplasm, cell membrane, prokaryotic, flagella, and chromosomes. And after those 8, they're all repeated again a second time. I don't know why. Again, I think that it's something to do with that not being exactly compatible with Brightspace, because it isn't an option to put it in exactly a Brightspace form when I export it. So what I'm going to do, chromosomes up above, here is the last one. So all of these after chromosomes, I'm going to delete them. And it takes a little while, takes 30 seconds or so to delete each one. So this is a little bit tedious. So this is one thing that's a little bit tedious with these matching questions. So I'm going to delete this guy. So I need to delete the duplicate 8. So I've deleted 2 of them. Now, once we delete these, there's going to be one other problem that occurs in the import, and I'll show you how to fix it. It's not a big deal, but what's going to happen is the answers that are set up in the matching are all going to be initially defaulting to the same answer. And we have to delete these one by one, which is a little bit tedious. Two more. Sorry, I wish this was faster. Okay, last one here. So I should have now deleted out the duplicates, and I should just have my 8 choices. Okay, so here's where we've got the correct answers, and you can see that every question has the answer as number 1. So what you want to do is change these just to match this number that's over here on the left. So this one goes with number 1. I'm going to change this to number 2 and 3 and so on. And now it should be perfect. So it's worth 8 marks. There are 8 questions, and each one has the appropriate answer. Okay, so that's it for matching a multiple choice questions. Again, in Examview there are short answer, there's like long answer, essay type questions. You can definitely try to import those as well. I just haven't really played around with it because I'm not sure if Brightspace can actually read a long answer and make a judgment call on a mark. If I was going to assess them that way, I would probably make it an item that they would put in assignments. You can actually, you know, put a quiz, have the students upload it into assignments, and then I can mark it and use the annotation tools and edit it and make comments. But as far as just a quick, you know, Brightspace marking a quiz for you, generating answers and grades for you, multiple choice and matching are the way to go. And that's how you can import them from Examview. Hope that was helpful. Take care. Bye.